We are live. Oops. Good evening, folks. After my clumsy start, you know me. Hi, everyone. It's Leisha.
Hello.
It is gone 6:30. Sorry for my delay. I was preparing us for our evening live. So Kerry looks wonderful. Thank you for joining me again, Kerry, this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we are back with sort of the part two. We started to have a discussion yesterday in regards to sort of the feelings and the emotions and the impression we leave on others. And we closed yesterday's live with the top 10 or the kind of 10 signs that we can all learn which help us spot the signs of someone who is a possible manipulator. So we're going to address those and just give you some brief experiences as to how we may have dealt with that type of person or scenario, and potentially a little bit as to how we dealt with it on an emotional level and on a realistic level. So yeah, if you want to kick us off with the first one, Kerry, that'd be wonderful.
Technology.
10 types of emotional manipulators. 1. The constant victim. This kind of individual will always find a way to end up as the victim in their relationships.
The constant victim.
Yes, indeed. So for me, I have had instances where I would say that I played victim. I'll put it quite frankly, because I wanted to tug on someone's heartstrings to a certain extent. Not the best way to go about things, but you do find that you can overplay that role or overplay that card, and then people become wary that you're always the person to say, that's happened to me, and this has happened to me, and this has happened to me, and kind of not grow from it, but just constantly putting yourself in a scenario where maybe not even needed.
The constant victim for me, from its past experiences to experiences, the constant victim, one that is always out to seek attention and blame everybody for their actions. That won't take responsibility for their own.
Very good at pointing out others, but not looking at themselves. Excellent. All right, what's number 2?
2. The one-upsmanship expert. This person uses put-downs, snide remarks, and criticisms to show that they're superior and know much more than you.
Yeah, I think we all know one of those people. They've been there, done that, got the T-shirt, got the degree, got the master's, got the PhD, and now, you know, they want to stand on their soapbox in regards to every subject ever known on the planet. They know about it.
Yeah, and you remember, I'm doing this from a suicide prevention point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So in regards to what I see, the constant put downs, that would probably be, gosh, there's so many examples of that. The constant put, she's loud, she's running it all wrong. They're better than you. They're better than you. You're beneath them. So if you take an employer and an employee, for example, that employee could probably do a better job and is doing a better job of running the business, and yet the employer would constantly put them down and just point out the worst things they could ever, that's not really visible, but just point out faults all the time, but never see them for the goodness that they do carry out. So and also, more so, women will always say, look at her, look what she's wearing. That's a constant put down, you know. He doesn't deserve that job, he can't do that. That's another constant put down. You know, there's so many prime examples of constant put downs. She thinks she knows it all. I've had a put down. Here's an example in the role that I do. It's been, well, you're telling me to do this and do that, and you're coming off like a control freak. And I'm like, now you're putting me down for me trying to show you a way out of what you're doing. So they don't never recognize the behavior that they're doing that's causing a destruction, yet they will turn around and say they have no friends. And that's why, because of the constant bickering and the going behind the backs and talking behind each other's backs about someone's behavior, something they've done. And it won't be just like, oh, they didn't pay the bill. It will be, they didn't pay the bill. They had my bloody clothes on. They had this, they had that. And they done this to me as well. It'll be a whole mountain of things on top. Anything to belittle that person.
Okay, what's number 3?
Sorry, but
3. Powerful dependence. Powerful dependents pretend to be weak and powerless, then use their helplessness to dominate relationships. That is, they send the subtle message, you must not let me down. 4.
All right, I'll give you a little example. When I work in care, and I've had to get out of the industry because I did find that it was a bit of a I don't know what I'm doing type industry in regards to some people that I worked with. And you think to yourself, well, how have you managed to get into the industry if you don't know what you're doing? Just a simple task like asking someone to make a sandwich or make a cup of tea, and they'd say to you, I don't know how to do that. And I'd actually stand there with my mouth like, what do you mean? Like, rather than just saying you don't want to do it, you say you don't know how to do it. And I'd actually prefer someone's honesty if they just said, I don't want to do that right now, rather than saying they didn't know how to do it. So I think that's what it is. Like, you know, if we're on the same hourly rate, in my mind, is that we should be able to do the same things. It doesn't mean that one's better than the other, especially in regards to like the basics, in regards to hygiene and food and that sort of thing, and taking care of, you know, somebody else in regards to their well-being. So when I do get that, you know, that helplessness, oh, I need help to do this. Oh, I need help to do that. Oh, I need help to do this. And then when you go and help that person, they stand and watch you do it. Because I don't know how to do it, do I? So therefore, you're not actually learning how to do it. You're just either a very clever dictator, if that makes sense, and using your helplessness to get things done around you, which for me is one of my biggest pet peeves.
I have experience of somebody saying they have the experience and they can do everything. And let's say, for example, I know how to paint. I'm a painter and decorator. That's my role by trade. But if you want it done, sadly, I haven't got any money, and you'll have to get this and you'll have to get that, and that could be your husband. Making excuses, but will go and do everything for everyone else but you. You have to show them and nag them a way of, you know, can you do this, please? It's constant asking to do the same thing, like they have to be told over and over again, like they're a child. So they kind of want treating as a child also within telling them. It's the constant reminder. If you're in a relationship or a friendship and you have to keep repeating what is harmful all the time, but yet as soon as you know, if you go out on holiday, you know they're going to defend for themselves. You know they're going to feed themselves. They're going to probably be having a nice party behind your back. But when you come back home, suddenly you're lied upon all the time, and you see them as a vulnerable person. So you keep doing for them all the time.
Yeah. Again, you know, working with some of the service users, we were encouraged to promote independence, and you know, there'd be 1 or 2 people that would say they can't do something. Well, you must be able to do it because you've been doing it without assistance for X amount of time. It's only because, you know, you've now taken a shine to me as, you know, as a member of staff or that sort of thing, or you like the way that I work, where you sort of then, like you said, rely on the fact that I've got a kind nature and that I'm good at doing stuff and I'll do it efficiently with a smile and just crack on with it. But then after a while, it's kind of like, well, you do know that you are capable of doing this for yourself, aren't you? And then when they kind of go, I don't know how, that's when I'm like, well, what did you do yesterday? Because I didn't do this yesterday. So, and someone else didn't do it for you. So therefore it must have got done. So don't play the helplessness card. And again, waving the victim flag, because I'm not always going to run to your attention then if that's what it is you need.
So speaking from my own experience when I was mentally unwell, It was almost that I relied on everybody to do everything for me. And when they started to fail me and walk away from the situation because it was too much for them to handle, or oh, it's not my department, I can't do this behind my remit, from my own experience. And I think this is where some of the people are getting failed within the community, is that things are with it beyond the remit and people won't help themselves. They do become thinking, okay, well, I'm not well, yet they're going to do it before me. So that becomes the advocacy side of what people are doing in the instead of dealing with the mental health, they're actually dealing with every other department, actually housing, social services. Instead of dealing with the mental health as that person, we find ourselves doing everything for that person. And instead of trying to do everything, so what we try to do is encourage them to write or express at least the words that they need to in order to participate in their own health and well-being, because they need to be in control of what's being said, they need to be in control of what's being done, and they need to be in control of their data. So for me, they have to be in control of the words that they put out into the universe and what they require and what level of support they require. We have to hear it from them, not
that doesn't stop at any stage of life. Even again, working in the care industry, as once the medical team, should we say, and the officials and such have established.
It does stop, Leisha, because I went through about 170 agencies when I was mentally unwell. And the reason why I went through them is because I had so many issues that were going on.
You didn't let me finish my sentence, so you can't say that. You don't really know where I was going with what it was I was going to say.
No, very true, but I kind of still on the same role of what I was saying as well. So carry on, and I'll come back to it.
It was in regards to having an advocate and a champion, because people have executives of wills and power of attorney. So that's why I was saying, as long as we can establish a mental capacity, we then try to give the power back to the individual and not make decisions for them, but empower them to make decisions. That's where I was going. So yes, in regards to certain stages in life, there is a breakdown in the agencies and the way that they handle our information and handle us as people. But as we get a little bit older, there are avenues in which you can have an advocate, you can have a champion, you can have a power of attorney, you can have somebody around you who is protected of your well-being and speaks on your behalf. So there are good points and there are bad points within the system. So I have also personally experienced where the system has let me down, but I've also seen where the system has actually benefited people.
But it's not the system, is it? It's the individual person in front who is handling your care. And that's also another point of manipulation. I've given people over my data, my life story to help me out of a situation. They will say that they can do it. Now, this is where the manipulation comes into it, okay? They will say they can do it, and then they leave you hanging, and you never hear from them again, right? So you've put your life in their hands. So whether it's a service or person, it doesn't matter. It's about the individual person handling someone's care, and vice versa, the information that we put into each other. Because for myself, I felt completely failed by people that say they with a can-do attitude and don't show up for work. So I find that they've manipulated me into my trusting them and put me down. That's in my past experiences, and that's one of the things about when I deal with people is that I don't leave them until their issues are resolved. Whereas I found in the past, people have left people and their issues are unresolved, causing more suffering.
I'm not disagreeing with you. Maybe from my personal perspective and my personal experience, I have had, I wouldn't say the person let me down, because I know the person is working within constraints of policies and procedures that they're not allowed to go beyond. So I have to unfortunately, in instances, I've had to bite my tongue, because the person looking at me isn't the person to blame, isn't the person to get angry with. only because I've worked on the other side, and I can see sometimes why families get angry with us and they say, why don't you do this and why don't you do that? And there are constraints that we have to work within that don't permit us to be able to do certain things. It doesn't mean we don't care about the individual. It doesn't mean we don't have an understanding of what their mental state is. Yeah, but what it is that there's a line that is drawn, and it's not drawn by us as an individual. It is drawn by the policies, the procedures, and what I call the system that we have to work with.
So let me just intervene in the way that conversation hits home with me, because the person that is operating in front of house, who comes and faces an issue that should be addressed, says we can only work within the constraints that we're given, but knows that they should address that issue. Now, this is the important part about what's going on in today's world, okay? That as an individual, and I always use the terminology, if you take off your uniform, please, and act like a human being. Because if things are, I have to say this because I was up against this. This is what happened to myself. And
yeah, I see where you're coming from, but I'm just going to give you a counter. In the real world, some people just look at that as a job. In their world, it is just a job. They don't actually give a damn about the individual they're dealing with.
Well,
so it's difficult for someone like us who are reliant on that person at reception, who are reliant on that person picking up the phone to handle our information with care and forward it on to where it needs to be going and it to be dealt with. Yes, I've definitely had many a phone slammed down in my ear.
Yes, but we're here on this platform, and let's not pretend that we're here to try and change that people's way of thinking here. Okay, whether you're behind a desk, whether you're in a job role or not, you're a human being encountering another human being suffering. Okay, so let's not pretend. If someone comes to me and something's morally wrong, and my boss says, put it under the paper, don't worry about that. I'm responsible for someone's life. Now, I don't want suicide on my hands. So I need to do all I can to what you call go back to the safeguarding element and safeguard. Now, it's okay for the person saying, nah, dismiss it. But you have, as a human being, a responsibility, whatever role you are in, wherever you encounter another human being, to listen intently to their needs and see where. No, let me finish, please. Let me finish. And see where their needs are and where you can help, if necessary. Network and try and get the right help. Even if you're in a position where you can't do such and such, you must behind the scenes try and do something also to help. This is my way of thinking because of the failures of the system, and the system is built to interact with people, to supply people's needs. The system is not there to tear you down. It's the people that are doing that. Okay, let's get that right. It's the people that are tearing down the society and blaming it on the system. But the system is a piece of paper floating around money and regulations, etc. But it's the people. These guidelines are set for us, for our rights, for our space, for our dignity, for our safety. And when people cross those, no matter what department you're in, somebody's going to suffer from that. So manipulation in whatever role you're in, manipulation is manipulation. Know that when you're dealing with human life, you must listen where you can help. If you say you can't, you go home. How many people have said on this platform that people go home to their comfortable beds at night and leave somebody sitting out there cold? I've seen it. It happened to me. I've seen what people in power or sitting in uniform say that they can help, and they just go home. Now, I'm a person in position, but I can't sit there and leave someone suffering. And I've got no one pulling my strings to tell me I should switch off, how to find a way of helping them. So I guess that's why I get more done. But yeah, I am very strong on where I am today, on the failures of people that take up a position of, she don't deserve a house. How many times have you heard people say that? She don't deserve a house because they've got their own opinion, or she don't deserve this because they've got their own opinion, taking matters into their own hands. So job role, friendship, agency, doesn't matter. Humanity, we're talking about humanity and how they encounter and think about other people as well as themselves. Go ahead, Lisa.
No, I hear what you're saying. It's just I've just been on the other side, being on both sides of having a need, feeling failed, not being able to blame the individual, looking at all the signs that they put out. We don't tolerate any form of abuse or effing and jeffing in regards to our staff, and it's a zero policy in regards to abuse against our staff and that sort of thing. Yeah, I can understand that. It's like I said, that's an individual who is in a job role. It's just that I've just got these sort of traumatic experiences where I have exploded over telephones, exploded in reception desks, or in front of offices, because I'm not being heard. And then at the end of it, feeling tad embarrassed, in all honesty, because I know that person is just doing their job. And the thing is, once I actually got to that stage where I disassociated the individual from what it is that I wanted, I actually personally achieved more. It was less emotionally damaging to myself. Whereas I would think that I was taking it personally from the person I was speaking from. And it's not until I had to deliver bad news, for example, or tell somebody they couldn't have something and put myself on the other side, and have someone explode at me. You don't know what I'm going through. Oh, okay. I'm told I'm meant to leave my personality and my humanness at the door when I come to work. So I can't even sit here and show you any form of empathy right now. Because if calls are being recorded, for example, in a call center, I'm going to be dragged away at the end of the shift and said that I got emotionally attached in regards to dealing with something. It was unprofessional, because I now want to be a human being and not just a call center operative. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that I'm against what's going on. I'm not enforcing the way some people react. I've just had to deal with it on both ends of the scale. And I know how disheartening I have felt, how, for me as an empath, as I say, I come home and I've cried at the end of a day of a shift because I've not been able to help somebody. This is going back years back when I worked in Argos. When they first brought out wall TV brackets, this woman bought a TV bracket. She got a professional to put it up. And for whatever reason, it fell off the wall and smashed her whole entire living room up. Now, I was just a sales assistant in Argos, but this woman was in a wheelchair. I knew that she was vulnerable because of the way the transaction happened. It was delivered in a taxi, all that sort of thing. So because I knew that little bit about her, I went out of my way, phoned her and said, I'd like to come and see the damage so we can help her with an insurance claim so she can get her home repaired, do you see what I'm saying? So that was the human in me that went beyond the role. But how many people actually say they're willing to go beyond their role, beyond what they're getting paid to do to help someone? And that's why I wasn't agitated by what, where the conversation was going. It was just how many people actually go above and beyond. And like you said, see it through to the end. I was under no obligation to worry about this woman's TV. But something like that would disturb me. I didn't feel like I'd done a good day on the job. So that's why me and you find things in our life where we actually genuinely helping people. I call it taking people over the bridge of belief. We all have an element of doubt and fear because of things we don't know. So if you slowly trickle information into somebody and then they begin to learn, you literally putting down each slap of the bridge to take them from fear to empowerment and building them up. So that's kind of where it is. I've learned to grow as an individual and not sort of just look at the job role and the person sort of. So yeah, because I've had to extend, go outside of my remit. So that's where I think that people struggle, is that we're financially struggling and people don't want to go outside of their role. Number one, they're not getting paid. Number two, they're saying, I'm not insured. I don't want to get into trouble. It's in my own time. There's all those things that come into play. So when we're in roles that we are, where we're actually genuinely helping people, supporting people, giving people guidance and solutions, we, as in us two, have to see it through to the end. Otherwise, we don't sleep very well at night.
No, we don't. We don't. We certainly don't. And I think let that conversation that you just said, what you just reeled off, I want the viewers to understand that. Let that be a lesson that if people take that stance of that's it, that's the end of it, I've got my pay work and that's the end of it. At the end of the day, you probably be complaining that somebody out there of your relation is not getting the help and assistance that's needed. And nobody's listening. And that is the consequences of taking the stance of you're just a paycheck. When people are not paychecks, people you encounter have a conscience. And this determines your conscience as well. And you're right, Leash. I can't sleep too well knowing somebody's suffering. So I will try, even if it's making a telephone call on behalf of somebody else. And I know that there are agencies out there that I've worked with who have gone above and beyond to at least try and find the right department to get the right help for the right person.
Yeah. That's it. And you find that it's a huge corporation, but like you said, it takes one individual to actually just go, do you know what? Today, I don't mind doing this. And we all have those days where we do that little bit extra for somebody else, even though we're not being paid, even though we're not really supposed to. But we know it makes us feel good at the end of it, a little, in a selfish way, which is what we know, how we kind of react sometimes. But we know we've done something nice for somebody else. We've done that act of kindness. That we don't know whether it's literally going to save somebody's life. We don't know if it means they're going to have a roof over their head for that night. We don't know if it means that they're going to have a meal now, or, in that respect. So sometimes those little small acts of kindness can literally be the biggest thing to somebody on that day. Do you know what I mean? So that's where it is that I am, is being on socials, someone messaging me, for example, in the background, kind of going, oh, I really like what you spoke about the other day. Oh, that little post you put out the other day and those few kind words that you put on, as a comment really, really helped, Leach. Thanks very much. And just that little bit of a thank you, that little bit of acknowledgement that comes back, it keeps me going for another couple of days in that sense. You don't do it for the love, you do it for the love, not for the likes. It's one of my favorite songs in that respect, because I do it because I do it with love. And I hope that other people like it to a sense. I'm not a people pleaser. I don't want people to think that I want to just bend over backwards and do anything for anybody. No, I have my boundaries, but it does make me smile when other people smile.
Yeah, I agree on that. Let's go to number 3 then, yeah?
Number 4.
4, sorry.
Triangulators. These people always try to get others on their side. They're quick to say nasty things and put you down. They separate good friends and drive wedges in between families.
Right. Well, classic case. That happened to me not very long ago. If you fall out with someone, they go to somebody else, gossip behind your back, then form sides, start, and they take sides and they go, you did this to my friends, blah, blah, blah. And they don't even know the full story, but they'll back that person up without knowing the full story. So that gossip becomes, now you've got not one enemy, you've now got 2. And then they continue to gossip with the like-minded crowd that they're surrounded by. And then suddenly they're all gossiping and they're on you like a pack of wolves.
I think in that sense, I think we all know that, again, the cliche saying, there's my story, there's your story, and then somewhere in the there's the truth. Do you know what I mean? And that's what it is. We speak sometimes from our own perspective, and in some instances, I suppose we speak and try to make ourselves look better in the situation. Nobody actually tells the story and makes themselves look out to be the worst one in the situation. If you're being honest, you would do. I was 50% a contributor to what happened, so therefore I'm no good or no worse or no better, or than the person who I had the interaction with or had the problem with. I think the problem, afterwards is, like you said, is where things can go awry, when they then go to family members, friends, mutual friends, your colleagues and all that sort of stuff, and start just sort of saying derogatory things, unnecessary things that didn't need to be shared, and then it escalates, doesn't it?
Then I want to point the dangers of this is that when generally somebody's speaking behind someone's back. Now, this happens also in domestic violence. Very, very clear. All right. when we go and tell someone about someone's behavior, then we go back to them. Then we go back again to somebody else to tell them about their behavior again, or the issues that are encountering. Somebody somewhere is now going to form an opinion of the person that you're encountering, and that's in your circle. And then because they want to protect you, they're going to form this opinion that you're a nasty person, but yet they've not heard the other side. And what the triggers were, or what the situation was, they've only got one side. And it cannot be a one-sided conversation. If somebody really wants to know, rather than go in there with the blame and say, you did this to my friend, what's happened? Then have a two-sided conversation now. Second of all, at the end of the day, I don't like that, where I've got to explain my friendship to somebody else. If they think if there's an opportunity to say, look, I'm only getting involved because she cares about you and she really does want that friendship with you, but she can't understand how to communicate with you then properly without you, blah, 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 blah. You know, this is why you can't get along now. Then I can understand that part. But when somebody say, jump on the bandwagon and start taking sides, this become a game of playground where Chinese whisperers and all of those things we've experienced at school as in adulthood, that goes on Facebook on a daily encounter, and people will name and shame and call out people and talk behind their back. Now, if you're talking behind someone's back in a nasty mannerism, you can't be trusted, because when you fall out with the next person, then we know that you're going to gossip. So we've already got an upper hand of how you handle your life. We've already got an upper hand of how you're going to handle a situation. Because if you're gossiping about someone, then I know that if I fall out with you, you're going to gossip about me the same way. So I'm very careful in how I word things with people and what I say. And I only talk about how you affect me, and that's it. And I mind my business. Unless somebody wants me to mediate for them, which I often have done, mediating. Now, that's a funny aspect of it. It's almost like trying to explain it in an angle of emotions rather than she said this or he said that, and putting down clear boundaries of what is expected, what is expected, you know? So I think there are lessons to be learned out of the way we handle things and the information we feed over to people. If you want people to like people and you know people make mistakes, leave it for a little while. If you need to seek someone for guidance, ask for an opinion, ask for advice, take it, do something about it. But you don't have to keep going back asking for the same advice, for the same behavior. You need to then make a decision about that behavior and say, you know what, I need to put boundaries into place and keep myself safe. Otherwise, I'm going to go insane with having to repeat myself.
I was going to say there's a fine line between being a mediator and a gossip, and I think
I know
that's kind of where there's a blurred line, unfortunately, and some of us will go into a situation with good intention, and trying to be the mediator, you can come across as looking a bit like the gossip and interfering, being a bit nosy, that sort of thing. So yes, it's a fine line, and I think that is whether you're good friends with your circle or whether they're actually like just acquaintances. There's a difference in how you would approach an acquaintance or a loose friendship in regard, or compared to how you would sort of approach somebody who you've maybe known for a period of time and they know more about your emotional well-being as well as your mental well-being, because there's two different levels of friendship. Some people look after your heart and other people look after your mind. So
and I will actually look after somebody from going to jail, because if I see manipulation, that's where I'm going in, because out of manipulation, it costs people their lives, it costs them their jobs, it costs them the jail, it costs them police time, it costs everything of manipulation. So at the end of the day, when I have to mediate, I'm literally trying to save someone from an accusation. Okay. And there's where the mediation comes in, where the accusations are. So when you've got social services want to mediate housing, they want to mediate mental health, would like to mediate, you have that mediation, only simply to put boundaries down. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
All
right. 5. The blasters. They blast you with their anger or suddenly blow up. That stops you from asking questions in case there's a showdown.
I don't mean to laugh, but that is for me one of the most common forms of way of making me feel sort of belittled and embarrassed, and I'll just want to remove myself from it. You know, that scenario where you just want the ground to open up and a big hole to appear so you can just step inside of it. And it's definitely happened more than once where that person has not been able to communicate, as far as I'm concerned, and they found it a lot easier to raise their voice, create a scene, and you know, now all eyes are on us, sort of thing, and it's not a nice experience.
No, it's not a nice experience. And the blasters, they're the people that shout you down and over shout you in situations. Nobody likes to be shouted at. Nobody likes to, because it feels so belittling and it feels so demoralizing.
It's in public as well.
Yeah, public humiliation, that's public humiliation, but at home as well. It's when people are swearing and they're aggressive in your face, and I mean that's a control element, because they can't control their anger. So in order to control anger, some people, and there's a technique that we can do right now, is that when you find yourself getting upset and getting frustrated within, you know, you think you're going to blow and things like that, I want people to stop literally and just breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth really, really slowly, and don't talk through it. Just turn, if you have to turn around and just do those breathing techniques. It shifts something in your head and gives you quite a little bit of a buzz, actually, but it just shifts something in your head and it will replace some kind of emotion, and you're able to manage that a little bit more better than before. And actually, it really does stop a lot of emotion. So breathing technique, whether you're feeling anxiety, upset, anxious about something, fear, or angry about something, got to try and manage that breathing. And then, you know, that should hopefully control a lot of self-harm element of it. It should actually control a lot of anger and a lot of it's discipline. If that's the one thing that you can replace, is breathing, where you think it's going to benefit both of you, instead of wasting the air on nasty, loud words and aggressive words and swearing and things like that. Try that breathing in your own self. You have to, because I think that will give you a big shift of the mind. That's just a technique along the way.
Yeah. So, and what I discovered, I know this sounds really weird, when I've been in that sort of confrontational situation and the person that I'm arguing with turns and walks away from me because they want to take themselves to a place of calm, it's actually one of my triggers.
Yeah, it makes you feel that you're not being ignored. So that what people can say is that I just need a little bit of time out for a minute. I'm not ignoring you. I'll come back. I just need time out.
I just wanted to make sure
I regret with myself.
Or to make sure I push that out there, because I think I'm not saying all women, you know, obviously I'm a woman, but I think a lot of us, when we're in that heightened state of emotion, when we are verbalizing, when we're shouting, and maybe when we're shouting at our partner because we're angry, and he has got that look in his eye where you can see it going from anger to rage, but he has control at that point. You can see him actually doing the countdown in his head and walking away and backing off, and his voice has got quieter, and he's doing everything he can to de-escalate the situation. But quiet. Me being the bit of the hothead in that scenario will not touch. I'm not a violent person, but I will kind of try to get the answers out of him, if that makes sense. And like, why aren't you answering me? Talk to me, you know. And it's more of a thing where he is de-escalating the situation because it's not the right time for him to say what it is that he needs to say. He's got control over his mouth. He's got control over his fist. He's got control over himself. And he's actually looking at me kind of going, when are you going to get control of yourself so we can actually have an adult conversation? So, you know, I'm not saying I'm not innocent, as small as I am. And sometimes that's where I'm a bit of a manipulator. I have utilized the fact that I'm only small. I'm not a threat. And I've actually used that as a weapon against the person that I'm arguing with, especially my partners, knowing full well, like, you can't hit me because you're so much bigger than me type thing. And that's just learned behavior unfortunately. It's something that it's not something I do now, but it's something I have done, where I've been a bit of a poke my tongue out, immature child, because I know that you can't do anything. Do you know what I mean, in that sense? And I'm a bit of a I can be a wind-up merchant, is what I'd probably be calling myself there. So that's just a way of me showing that I'm growing in regards to, I know what my forms of manipulation, I know where I've kind of escalated a situation, and where I've probably ruined a few relationships and a few friendships just because that I just wouldn't have shut up.
Yeah. I was exactly the same going in my youth, you know, and I was exactly the same. I would be the argumentative person, arguing back, standing my ground. No, my daddy said not to submit. And you know, I tell you what, all you end up is wounded. You know, one way or another, you wound and you tarnish your reputation. You're actually unapproachable in some ways. And when those people that do go quiet and silent, but have that respect for them. They're not trying to really ignore you. They're actually trying to say, you know, how can I just analyze the situation and get this point across without fearing, without how many. I mean, I've tried so many different angles to address these, but she every time I go to her with this, she acts this way. So all right, I'll go that way, and she acts that way. So they keep going around in different directions trying to find the right. It comes fear. If I'll shut my mouth now, I better not say nothing, and then now the communication is down. I think the best thing is, with somebody wants a little conversation, write it down, what the things that you want to address, bullet point them, and talk about them without blame individually. That will be helpful. If you're going to shout and scream at someone, you are not going to be heard. You're not going to be heard. People switch you off in many ways. And you getting where you shout at them and say, you're not listening to me, you're not listening to me. Yeah, I get your point where you want to be acknowledged, but again, you want to be acknowledged without that force. So calm it down. All right, let's go on. Yeah. I think that's a good explanation anyway. So let's go. Oh no. Oh no, I'm really sorry. We're back. I apologize. These things happen. There's technology in it. Hold on.
The projector thinks they're perfect and that others have all the flaws. They take no ownership because they're never, ever wrong.
They're never, ever wrong. That's narcissistic behavior. They could actually blame or do something wrong, won't actually apologize for those actions, and will seek a fault in you or flaw in you and say, no, it wasn't me. They had their TV up twice as loud. And yet it will be them that's doing it. You know, literally, I'm always right. No, listen to me. I'm the one. I know. I've done this job for many, many years. I know.
You know what my favorite one is? Let me tell you something. It's the finger. Let me tell you something.
Let's get on the point of your parents then, okay? I know. I had you. I know the way. My mama told me this. Hold on a minute, though. And that's where the conflict comes between parents and kids, right? Because they're saying the parents don't want to let that kid grow and let him understand and find out the hard way if you have to. But I know, I'm just pre-warning you. But it's the way you come across and say things, where we just go, can't be dealing with it. So for me, at the end of the day, is she thinks she knows better. Here comes down, she thinks she knows better herself. Going back to number 5, you know. And I think at the end of the day, is you ask an opinion, expect the answer. If you ask for advice, expect the advice. If you just want to be heard, say, I just want someone to talk to right now. So you'll be very careful. The message that you sent back for the person that you're talking to may want to be the advisor, the listener, or the speaker within it. So there's you need to be careful within your conversation of what information you want back, because there's nothing worse that you're talking off reeling something to someone and they're trying to be a solution. And they're going, well, if you had listened to me, you would have been, you know, that one. If you had listened to me, you wouldn't have got hurt. You know, that one, you must have heard that all day long. I told you so.
I told you so. So the warning signs were there.
Listen to me. You know, all of those things. We can go right back down to 4, 3, 2, 1 on those aspects.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Okay, number 7.
I think we're on number 8 now.
7. The deliberate misinterpreter. This person seems nice, but they twist and use your words. This person spreads misinformation and misinterprets you, deliberately presenting you in a false, negative way.
Oh yeah, that happens to me quite often.
That one's quite self-explanatory. I think a lot of us have experienced that, where you've heard about yourself from somebody else and you kind of go, are you talking about me? Like, you know what I mean? Like, ooh. And yeah, there's nothing worse than painting a picture of somebody and painting just a negative picture of somebody where we're different fractions of people. That was just one part of that person you saw that you perhaps didn't get along with, you didn't like. But it doesn't mean to say that that's what you go around telling the rest of the world. Do you know what I mean? It's just...
Well, let's now, you always pull me into a topic, so here we go. So let's case of the exes and the ex-friends. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You started off, and I said this yesterday, you start off with good intentions, you enter into someone's space with good intentions. When you leave and you part because you just don't get along anymore, leave that good intention. Just because you had ups and downs and didn't find the right communication skills doesn't mean you have to ruin their whole reputation with the image that you last left with because you had a misdemeanor with them. But what about all the previous goodness of them before you actually left that situation?
It's really bizarre you should say that, because again, when I was in my violent relationship and he then became an ex, I wouldn't go around saying to people, oh, I was with so and so and they're a woman beater. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't say that because it sounds really weird. I've interacted with that person since, and the only question I asked, did you hit anybody else?
Yeah.
And their answer was no. So therefore, I would have been lying to a certain extent if I'd have then been perpetrating that person's personality as still being a woman beater, because I was the only person they hit. I know it sounds a twisted way of looking at it, but that's just the nitty gritty of it. I could have gone around saying, oh, you don't want to go out with him because he's done that. Oh, you don't want to go out with him because he's done that. Yeah, he did it to me. It doesn't actually mean he's going to do it to the next woman. So as much as it's a horrible explanation to use, it's my reality. That's my realization, that when I asked him, was there anybody else that you did that to? And he said no. He didn't even turn around and say, oh, you caused me to do it to you. No, that wasn't the conversation. It was just simply, I had a curiosity, like, are you actually a long-term domestic abuser? Is that your life? Or did you actually change your ways afterwards and actually, what we would say, have a normal relationship with someone there afterwards? And yes, he had, in that respect. So yeah, I wouldn't want to paint someone out to be, there have been instances where men have been accused of doing things to children as well. I'm not going to put that out there. With those accusations have been out, and we know they've been gone through the social services, the legalities and whatnot. And that man's reputation has been ruined because a bitter girlfriend or a bitter ex has said he's done A, B, C, D, and now the work is a problem, where he lives is a problem, his friends are a problem, his family's a problem, all because of a very, like you said, a twisted lie and a form of manipulation that, like you said, can then potentially lead to that man self-harming, alcohol, drugs, promiscuity, all the things which in turn I equal to some form of suicide, because that's not a healthy mental state to be in.
Well, it's interesting that you hit on those topics, there you go. And when you've got people that you do hear that they are been abusive, and you have heard that it has been one person after another, the automatic response, you want to warn the other person, but then sometimes you think, I'll let them find out the hard way. And I think at the end of the day, I think you encounter the right person to help you grow. And you think, if I look at it this way, can you transform or train a dog? They always say, can you teach an old dog new tricks? And I do believe with the right care that you can contribute to a growth of a human being with kindness. And I think every human being has that inner dog that will come out and bite if they're pushed to the limit. So yeah. I think past behaviors, my past previous relationships, I can only now put it down to that they've been encountered past issues with other people as well. So they're just pretty much as damaged as well. Do you see what I'm saying? So there's no different. It's not the one that I said to someone today, it's not mental health, it's how we have been treated by others that makes us react in different ways with different trigger points with different conversations. And you don't know what they're going to be on the day.
Yeah, that's what we were saying yesterday. Right. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
The flirt. This person uses flirting to get their way in life. They want to be admired and have an audience. However, your needs and interests are of no concern to them.
Ah, right.
Well, it sounds really weird, right? But we could use this live as a perfect example.
So yes, exactly what.
Yeah. Whereas what we talk about, why we collaborate, why we come in here and share, is because we have common goals, common interests, and there are things in our past that we have shared, similar experiences. So there will be people that jump on, see what we talk about, and they'll be like, no, that's not relevant to me, and whoop, they're off. And there'll be other people that will sit and listen for 5, 10, 15 minutes, and they may not say anything, they may not comment, but something somewhere along the line may resonate, and it may have made an impact on them. So I will continue to educate, share, and I would say help each other heal using this platform. And for me, this is the only element of positive manipulation that there is.
All right. As far as platforms, giving an example of platforms is that when you go to post on somebody's wall and it's like they own it. They own it. It's a public place. They own it. They do all the settings and they own it. Now, that's okay, depending on the information you think you're going to keep people safe. But it's a public platform. If you're sharing awareness, make sure it's positive. But when you prohibit people from putting out, I've had it myself, putting out even suicide prevention and won't even put that there. That then becomes a selfish act, because then you're actually controlling the people that are in your domain of what information they should receive. And you're saying, you need to listen to me.
Yeah, it's a form of censorship. It's a really weird one where, not to interrupt, but with some of the stuff that I've been advised to do in conducting, for example, my Facebook timeline, someone said to me, consider your Facebook page like a shop window. So, what's going to make someone stop and have a look at your window display and then actually, push the door and come in and venture into that shop? Is there something attractive about your profile? Is there something that is inquisitive and makes people curious? And it's good training in a weird sort of way. I didn't think that it would be like a life skill, something that I would learn from something as such a simple analogy. Think of your life and the way you present yourself as a shop window, and are you attractive to the world?
Yeah, exactly. Because I often read people's comments and they're so bitter, and they will name and they will shame, but they don't realize that's a reflection of them. I wouldn't want to be anywhere near somebody that is naming and shaming someone, despite what they've done to them. I would say, if it's that bad, take it to the police. But at the end of the day, when you name and shame, those bitter words that you put out on the could be you're not giving someone a chance to redeem themselves if you don't do any mediation. You're not giving any chance whatsoever for growth, change, or what you can do is just walk away from them and just change your circle of friends. That's how you can do it. But you have some dignity and respect for yourself, because when you are belittling people on a public platform, that's a representation of who you really are. And I want to be anywhere near bitter people. So
Next one.
let's push on.
Yeah.
9. The Iron Fist. The Iron Fist uses intimidation to throw their weight around, use you for their ends, and get their way in life.
Well, again, I think that is, self-explanatory. I don't know if any of you on here watching, unfortunately, have had someone control. They can control the way you dress, the way you speak, where you go, who you interact with. And when you go outside of what they give you permission to do, they rein you back in with either violence, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, financial abuse, which we will speak about another time. Yes.
We do. And if you are in that situation, seek help. Domestic violence hotline, you can find that number. I should have it at the bottom of the screen. I apologise. But if you're watching this, you've got technology in the palm of your hand, Google it. If you need to send it on,
use a search engine. I'm not just going to sponsor certain words. Use any search engine you wish and type in DV support, DV help. Yeah, just in case.
Yeah, okay, let's move on.
10. The multiple offender. This person uses several of the techniques we've described, and they'll often switch between the methods depending on what suits their purposes.
Okay, I'm just going to wrap up because on the going back to number 9, where the flirtatious, we lift that out. That actually comes into that manipulation, which is really the circle of abuse, and they will use everything in any method, technology, to get what they want for their own gain, even including sex. And it is always for their own gain, and they have no concept of you. You become their property. This becomes manipulation, mental, physical abuse, everything you just said just previously. This becomes domestic violence, one of which you should never be in and never want for your children. No matter how old you are, you're someone's child, and your parents will not want you to be going through this. Remember this. And the only way you can oblige your parents with your safety, if you give them anything about safety, the ones that gave birth to you, the only ones that should take away your life is nobody, for certain. They gave you life. No one should take away your life. So
not even yourself, because that's the whole point of what you do.
No one should take away your life. You have a right to a life. You have a right free from abuse, free from mental abuse, free from physical harm, free from harm, full stop, and freedom to live the life the way you want to. If you don't like the circumstances that you're in, I suggest that you change your circle and you get prepared for every breath that you've got in your body to find your freedom of your life away from domestic violence. I know, I survived it. I'm here.
So I'm just reading a few comments before you go. Thank you, everyone, for joining. JJ, Nicola, Leisha, Shirley, hi, Kaz, Sophie, Han, Toots. Thank you so much, all of you. And just a quick comment from JJ. He's saying that this is a really good convo. Most people are like to just love the fact that we're raw, we're real, we're talking from personal experience, we're giving some information out, as well as to where people can go for help. And again, you know, we're both approachable. So if there's anything that either of us have said and you want to sort of speak privately, you know what to do. Hit the inbox. We've both got Messenger. I don't deal with sort of disclosing anything outside of the conversation that it is that we have. We can send you emails in regards to confidentiality and that sort of thing. We're both professional people, and we are working with our hearts, and our hearts have led us to our purpose, and our purpose is helping people and saving lives. So yesterday, our live crashed a minute before the hour because of the service we're using. So we're going to say thank you once again. We'll be back definitely next week, Sunday. And we are actually going to talk about what you do when you've discovered that you're around a manipulator and you're thinking about moving on with your life. Because that's my part of my journey. What I had to do to get away from the people and the person that was manipulating me. And then I bounced back. So that's what you can all do. We're gonna.
I like that one. I'm on that one with you. Bouncing back.
All right. So we're gonna bounce back next week, Sunday, 6 to 6:30. Quick one, Karen.
Before we go, as I'll say, I'm just going to leave it there. I'm the founder of the Mom Project Suicide Prevention. You can find me on the Mom Project Suicide Prevention Mental Health Real Talk.
Yeah, and we'll send out invites as well to those of you who've watched, and if you feel free to accept the invite and see what it is we do on the other side with our projects and our people. So much love, everybody. Peace, blessings, love and light, prosperity, guidance, and abundance in love in every which way. Sharing is caring, health is wealth, people. Take care. I'm Leisha. My guest is Kerry Mussington. Mom Project. Please feel free to go and search her out, and sharing is caring, saving lives, prevention and awareness. Love you all. Take care. Sorry about my head. I just have to move to turn my camera off.